Have you ever been in a fishing tournament and suspected that one of your competitors was cheating? What is up, everybody? Dan's Midwest Angling here, and this weekend an incredible story has blown up on social media and across the entire fishing world about one of the most blatant cheaters that's ever been caught. And I've done some research and got some new details that I'd like to share with you guys. Our story begins in the wonderful city of
Cleveland. It's the perfect place if you're a douchebag.
I don't know what's wrong with that sound machine. That's not supposed to do that. The incident occurred on Friday, September 30th, at an event that was held by the Lake Erie Walleye Trail. The two offenders' names are Jake Runyon and Chase Kaminsky. And here is an official statement from the Lake Erie Walleye Trail itself. Disgusted, guys and gals. I'm sorry for letting you down for so long, and I'm glad I caught cheating taking place in your LEWT at the same time. I can't think enough to post results, but congrats to crazy name and French and Toy Hendricks and Ulmer. Same goes to the Yak and Open winners. I hope you know now that when I say you built this LEWT and I will defend its integrity at all costs, I mean it. You all deserve the best. Tournament Director Jason Fisher. There have been numerous videos circulating around on social media, and I've secured one of them. So now we're going to go ahead and watch that video. Just a heads up, I did remove the audio from this video because someday, maybe in 30 years or so, I'd like to have this channel monetized. If I was to edit out all the swearing, there wouldn't be much audio left. As you can see, that tournament director, he is mad. He's got a weight in his hand, and now the crowd starts to gather. Now, what's important to note here is that this is this Jake Runyon fella. And I don't know where Polish guy... I haven't seen a single video where he was in it. So the director tells him to get away because the crowd is starting to get pretty ignorant. As they should be. And now they're cutting open another fish. There's another weight. I mean, these are heavy weights that are in these fish. Here comes the next one. I mean, we all knew it, man. That's what they're saying. And there's a fillet. They stuffed an actual walleye fillet inside these fish. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? Now, the one thing that is really impressive here is this dude, he's taking it like a man. The average guy would have run away the second that first sinker came out. So I gotta hand it to him. He took it like a man. Now, there are many different angles and more or less detail going around on social media, but that's the gist of it. Those are the kind of weights that they were stuffing into these fish. Now, another thing to note, with the walleye fillets being in there, so they killed a fish and wasted the meat just to shove down that bigger fish's gullet. So really, they took more than their daily bag limit. So there's a conservation crime right there. A fish fillet is pretty floppy. You'd think it would be pretty easy to stuff lead weights down there because they're pretty firm, but in order to get a soft fillet of a fish down into that gullet and making it look like the mouth of the fish was not disturbed, I mean, it's almost like you would have had to have done that a few times to be able to do that right and not get caught. And it turns out this isn't the first time that these guys have been accused of doing stuff like this. Last fall, they were disqualified from a couple events for failing a polygraph test. Now, I know that legally polygraph tests aren't really admissible in court because you can have somebody that's pretty nervous and screw up a polygraph test, and at the same time you could have somebody that's a stone cold killer not fail a polygraph test. This is something I found on a local website, cleveland.com.
Cleveland!
It states that the Fall Brawl creator and 11-year director Frank Murphy was the first to have the tests administered and disqualified Runyon and Kaminsky. Murphy awarded an expensive Ranger boat to second place Ronald Masel and his 12.65-pound walleye. But the second event, they passed. When host Erie Outfitters of the Walleye Slam had a polygraph test given to Runyon and Kaminsky at a Toledo site, both passed. And then here is the part that really kind of gets you. This came from the Toledo Blaze. Runyon went to great lengths to proclaim, repeatedly, that they were innocent and had caught their fish by following all of the rules. He secured legal counsel, has been trying to sue the brawl to claim their so-called winnings. Do you got balls the size of church bells? The duo weighed in the apparent top catch at last year's Lake Erie Fall Brawl and made a claim for more than $100,000 attached to that finish, but then were disqualified when the tournament director at the time offered no explanation or clarity other than to say that one of them had failed the polygraph. The tournament lacked the transparency it so desperately needed. And my understanding is that it was their policy to give all winners of the tournaments polygraph tests, so take that as you will. So it doesn't necessarily mean that people were connecting the dots back then, but the way people were talking, they absolutely were. I believe that this is referring to an event earlier this year. After the pair were awarded the first place money at the Rossford event, several other competitors shared, off the record, their suspicions that something shady had taken place. Other anglers claimed that Runyon and Kaminsky's fish looked old. These walleye had been caught prior to the start of the event and stashed in a live well. Adding fuel to that charge was the additional factoid laid out by several competitors at the event that Runyon and Kaminsky declined to donate their catch to local food banks, as most of the tournament fishermen did. Gee, I wonder why. Maybe it's because the fish had more lead in their guts than the residents of Flint, Michigan. And perhaps there is no evidence more damning than the words of the perpetrators themselves. Jake Runyon had the following words to say on his YouTube channel, which has since been scrubbed.
We won this tournament last year, and I can tell you, this year we did everything exactly the same as we did last year.
Douchebag.
Man, I'm telling you, they really got to work on that sound machine. Can't be having that. In the video, multiple other competitors can be heard yelling to call the police. And one might wonder, is it illegal to cheat in a fishing tournament? And the answer is absolutely yes. That is called theft by deception. The traditional definition of theft by deception would be something on the order of using a smooth tongue to con grandma into putting things into her will that she probably shouldn't. But absolutely one could make a case for this charge. Theft by deception is generally defined as a misdemeanor crime where somebody is convicted of unlawfully taking something that belongs to someone else by intentionally deceiving them, usually with deceptive words or a deceptive act. The language used to define theft by deception differs by state, but typically involves something to the effect of creating a false impression. Now, if you create the false impression that your fish do in fact weigh more than the other guys, and they don't, and you take money that he should have gotten because of that, then absolutely that is theft by deception. As to whether charges were filed, I was unable to locate that information. The only tidbit I got involving the police was only the arrival of on-duty police officers likely saved Runyon and Kaminsky from an assembled mob of the real fishermen, many of whom had, behind the scenes, voiced their suspicions the duo had cheated in the past. I'm sure more is to come from this story. We are not done hearing from these guys. But one thing I can assure you is that these guys' professional fishing career is destroyed, as it should be. There is absolutely no excuse for this type of behavior. So now I'd like to hear from you. Have you ever suspected somebody of cheating in a tournament that you've been in? Have you ever caught somebody red-handed? Please let us know in the comments. This has been Dan's Midwest Angling. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.